Hello everybody. Today's discussion will be on the topic of ERP project management, challenges, risks and best practices. The thing you need to understand that a ERP implementation project, when we implement the ERP software like SAP in a large organization, it is a very complex activity. It takes quite some time, maybe depending on the size of the organization, it could take from minimum at least 6 months to sometimes several years. And if you are talking about global companies, multinationals which are spread across several countries, when you do a ERP implementation, it can take maybe 5 years, 6 years to complete all the countries in the world. So that is why when you are doing such an exercise, also since it involves a lot of people involved, a large team works for these implementations, minimum maybe 15 to 20 and maximum again for those multinationals it can go into several hundreds. Sometimes in large projects you might have 500 people at the peak working on a single implementation project. So you can very well understand there is tremendous amount of dynamics involved, tremendous amount of challenges involved and risks, because when you are working with such a complex program and project and with involving so many people across countries, multiple culture, etc., which we will be talking later, a lot of things can go wrong. So that is what, as a potential manager, like an IT manager, you need to understand or know what are the challenges, what are the risks and what are the best practices. Best practices means the good things that you should try to do when you are implementing a project. And at the same time, at the beginning of a project, it is true for any project, we do a extensive risk analysis. So as a project manager, one of the first job when you start a project is to do a risk analysis of the project, that where things can go wrong during the course of the project, the duration of the project life cycle can be months, weeks, several months, 6 months. Here for ERP project we are talking about many months, maybe a year or 2 years. So many things can go wrong in this time period. Take for the example this current situation of coronavirus, COVID. What has happened? So all the projects which were running during this time, everybody they got impacted, but they never knew. I mean, nobody say probably in the month of December or maybe November a project had started, a ERP implementation. I mean, nobody could ever think about something can go wrong where the project will stop for several months. Now it's already almost in the 4th month and where people are still stuck at places, etc., etc. So many things everything is going haywire. So this is what are the challenges, risks, etc., which a project manager need to know. So you should understand what are the various types of risks, etc., which I will try to cover briefly here in my presentation. It will give you an overview of all those aspects. Okay, to start with, we should define and manage the scope of the ERP. So what is the scope? So first we need to know what are the scope of a project which is covered under this ERP, or what we are talking about, enterprise resource planning software. So one is the process scope. So like every business, there are a lot of business processes which I have been talking about earlier. So we need to map out the number of processes which are there in all the functional areas which are being covered during that program implementation. You may not sometimes implement all the modules of SAP, for example, just to save time, or you want to start something quickly. Maybe you want to do only the finance and manufacturing, for example, and you probably can do HR, etc. later. So not so very critical, not so very important, but sales, manufacturing and finance. Finance is of course required because finance is at the core, but things like plant maintenance, quality management, etc. you can delay. HR probably can do a delay, but many people do it together. So anyway, so depending on the cost and budget and time, etc., whatever, but the processes needs to be identified and listed and signed off. These are the processes for which we will do the project. Functionality, similarly from the process comes the functionality. What are the various functionality we want to capture into this, because some of the functionalities can be better handled by say existing software. Say for example payroll. So many times it happens that many organizations have developed their own payroll software, and which is working, which can work better than what is being offered by say the ERP software. So you want to maybe retain that payroll and then build a bridge connecting it with the SAP software. So that functionality within SAP software you will not implement because it's already you want to use an existing software. So that is a little bit of less work for the SAP project implementation. Organizational scope, again, see the companies can constitute of say head office, then multiple locations, multiple factories, multiple manufacturing units, then warehouses, sales offices, branches, etc. So you have to decide which of the organization's element will be into SAP. Some of the remote, for example, sales office or maybe very small in small towns or villages where it's only one person working or part time, etc. You may not include in your project, because you see everywhere you include a location means again it's a lot of cost, effort, connectivity, you have to have a network and so many other things, train the people, etc. So all things are there. So we have to decide what is the organizational scope. Technical enhancement scope is what sort of enhancements you need. So SAP is offering certain features, but your organization may be needing something which is not being offered in that product. So you might have to want to add something extra. So that is where custom development comes in. So you have to write codes for that. So that is, and it's again it's extra time and money cost. So you should try to minimize the technical enhancements. Try to stick to whatever the product is offering, SAP. So we call it vanilla implementation. So whatever the product is offering, try to stick to that. That is because from a future maintenance perspective, the less the amount of code you write, better it is for the software quality. Because the more you write codes, you'll actually produce a lot of bugs. So you have to test it, and then there could be some errors, and there could be some integration problem with the existing company product, supplied product, and the component you have written, developed, etc., etc. So those all can give rise to a lot of maintenance issues. So best is to avoid. So that's the best practice, minimize. But if it is required, it is required. So you have to do it. Technical infrastructure scope is again the hardware, software, how much wherever you will have your LAN, WAN, how you will connect, etc., etc. So that is the typical the hardware, the IT department which handles that. Interface scope is the scope that is how many of the existing software you want to retain and build a bridge with the SAP software, because all the financial information has to flow into SAP, because finally your balance sheet, etc., everything will come out of SAP. So all financial transaction of the organization has to be captured in the SAP finance module. So for that you have to build your interface. Like I said, the payroll, if you want to use a payroll, fine, you can use it, but then you have to build a connecting program. We call it an interface. So it's automatically whatever transaction happens in the payroll, like the salary payment, etc., etc., that information goes into the financial books of account. Like all the credit and debit entries happen in the SAP finance book of accounts, charter of accounts. So we need to build. So it depends on scope means how many such softwares you want to connect, because for each one of them you have to build a separate program, and writing a separate program again means cost, money. So that is what you need to budget. Data conversion scope, again the original data which are there in the legacy system, existing software will have to be now transported into SAP. So that is called data conversion, because it has to be converted into a format which you are designing new for the new product. Maybe the whole material name codification is changing. So previously it was known by say a material code of say by the name of the product. Now you want to put a number codes. Like you have noticed in your bank accounts, for example, after the core banking system, all the banks got computerized, the account numbers got changed. Previously we had account numbers of very small, few digits, 6122 was your account number. But nowadays normally you will find an account number which is very difficult to remember, maybe 10 digit, 10 character, 14 characters like that, numerical numbers, 110578. So there is a meaning, I mean there is a lot of meaning in that design, because they are conveying a lot of information, not for us but to the bank employees. They, from seeing the account number, they can find out many things, like whether it's a current account, whether it's a savings account, etc., etc., which region the account belongs to, maybe which city, which region. So many information, intelligent information is hidden in that number code. So that is why the number code becomes very long of your account. Previously we just had a small code 6382, that was the account number, very easy to remember. But nowadays with computerization things have changed. So that is data conversion. The old data which was few 6382 account number will now get converted into an account number which will have 10 characters. So that is a conversion. And reports and forms scope, reports are the management MIS all handles works with reports. So the reports has to come up from the system. Normally the products SAP, they have their own standard reports which are good enough, but sometimes you want to have reports in your existing template, for example formats. I wanted this here, this column, that rows, etc., etc., this by this. So all that is the existing thing. If you want to replicate and want to get that same thing from the SAP, then you will have to write again a program. Similarly for forms, where you need to fill up, say, a purchase requisition, that is a form. So you have to design that form, because your company logo will be there, company address will be there, company PAN number will be there. So the new form has to be designed. Say the invoice, sales invoice, again same thing, company logo, company address, company registered PAN number, etc., etc. So many important statutory information has to be there in your these forms. So that has to be designed. So these are all part of the job. So define and manage the scope of the project. Now the method, how do we implement? If you see, there are a lot of phases, like it goes from one phase to other. So it starts with evaluation phase, when you are actually doing the pre-sales, trying to understand the complexity of the job, because you have to quote a price, right? How much time it will take, how many people you will need, etc. So that's more or less the sales part. Now once the sales part is over and you get the order and you get the contract, then you start the project. So you start something called a project preparation. That is where you do all the risk analysis, build your team, do the training of the team members, of the consulting of your clients' team members. Then both the team, they open a office, sit somewhere, and the main thing is the training part. So your client, you have to train them in SAP, what is SAP product, and the client will need to train you about their business process, because you are not aware, you have come from outside, the consultant. You have come from outside, so you don't know what the business processes are in that company. Suppose they are manufacturing battery, for example. So they will tell you, train you, take you around the factory, what is the process, how it starts, the raw material comes, etc., etc. And then all other typical business processes also need to be told you, how the company works, what are the rules and regulations, etc., etc. Business blueprint is a design phase, when you are actually designing the to be, what we call as is and to be. As is the existing process, to be is the new process. Because I have told you in the previous session that is something called a business process reengineering happens. So when you implement an ERP or SAP, lot of processes undergo change, because you are now capturing the best processes which are there in the SAP product, which has been gathered their experience from their experience with large multinational corporations like Toyota, General Motors, Coca-Cola, etc., etc. So you get all their best practices. So you need to change your business process to the best, what is happening in the best of the successful companies. So that is what we call the to be design. So so my organization today does this business process, but going ahead we will adopt these new processes. So that becomes a to be. So all your stakeholders from the company side, client side, like the CFO, the chief of marketing, the chief of production, the chief of purchase, everybody will have to agree to the new processes which is being proposed by the product, and you as a consultant, you are telling, yes, you should adopt this for your advantage, and they will have to understand and they will have to sign off, yes, we agree. And once that whole thing is signed off, then you move into the realization phase, which is the build phase. That is where you start actually working on the software. Now in SAP, something is known as customization. So what we do, you don't need actually programmers, coders to customize the software, because it's already pre-built. The software comes ready. Everything is written. Now the functional people, the persons are, we call functional resources, are the people who are experts in finance, materials management, sales and marketing, manufacturing, etc. They do not write codes, but they know how the business process works. So accordingly, they will now configure the product by a lot of writing some formula, doing some checkbox, putting some values, etc., etc. Like the stock values, for example. For each item, they will decide what should be my reorder point. So those numbers they understand. So I want to, and they will discuss with the client and say, what is the stock level do you want to maintain for each of your material, such that it is optimized. So it is neither less nor high, because high, if you have too much of inventory, that is, money is blocked, so that's a waste. So all that is being done by these consultants, and it's known as something known as configuration. And also you have to create your master data. So all the material master, the customer master, vendor master, these are all things which needs to be created on the screen by capturing all their information, like what is the name, address, phone numbers, contact details, again PAN number, etc., statutory details, what are the materials they supply, etc., etc., what are the vendor rating, etc., the previous whatever you had in the records. Then finally, of course, you have to enter all your stocks or whatever open items are there, open purchase order, open sales order, that is before you go live. But these are the things which have to be done without any writing any code. So, fine, anyway, this is not the course of this particular course. So, we will not go into too much of details about the ERP software. All you need to know that this is the realization phase is where you do building the actual software, you are creating it. So, blueprint you design, now you are building it. Then final preparation is when you are getting ready, people are getting trained, data is going to be uploaded, etc., etc. Infrastructure you have to check ready. Main activity here is training, user training. So, all the users will need to know how to operate that SAP software. So, everybody will, so you are a materials man, so you will be handling these screens. So, this is how you do, that is a sort of training. Or you are a sales guy, so you will be viewing or working on this particular, it's like creating a sales order. So, how will you create a sales order? So, you open a customer name and order quantity, etc. So, that sort of training is given as to how they will do the transactions, because day in and day out the salesperson has to create sales order. Or when you are floating a sales inquiry, how will you float a sales inquiry? So, all those things are taught as a training, because that is what the transactions they will be doing when they are actually start working on the SAP system when it goes live. So, go live and support. Go live is the day you shut down your old systems and start with the new SAP or ERP software. So, that is where the entire company changes over from their existing, like again I give the example of banking. So, they moved over to an online core we call CBS, core banking system. So, any branch you go, they are all connected, same software. So, now you do not have to go to your particular branch, you can go to for your bank any branch and withdraw money. So, there is no restriction that you have to go to your own particular branch and then only you can get money from there. No, you have an account in State Bank, you can go to walk into any State Bank branch and withdraw money. So, that is because they are having a common ERP type of thing platform, software platform, and everybody knows how to operate that. So, that is when it goes live and everything becomes they start working on the same software. And then the next phase, last is sustain, means maintenance, because any software has to be maintained, upgraded. There are problems, we know there are problems. You have to somebody will raise a ticket, problem ticket, and there will be a team, it is called a help desk team which will start working, support team, maintenance team, etc., who will give your support to keep that software up and running, because otherwise sometimes software hangs, there is an error, they will crash, so many things can go wrong with a IT system. So, there is a team which looks after continuously 24/7 to see that your system is up and running. So, that is what is sustain. And then you have several dimensions which are required as part of this journey. So, it is called people, process, knowledge, technology. So, you are aware when I was telling you how the project is implemented. So, people are involved, knowledgeable people, skilled people. So, it is people with skill, SAP skills, they are involved. Process, I was talking about process, you have to follow a process step by step, like you have to follow this methodology. When you are doing the implementation, you have to go step by step, it cannot be arbitrary. Knowledge, of course, you need knowledge of the product and the knowledge of the company, organization, that is very important. All of the team must be aware, fully aware of what is the, how does this business work. So, all the business processes of the company has to be known by everybody, both sides, the clients as well as the company people. And then of course, technology is there, I mean the whole thing is about technology, both software and hardware. So, blueprint design phase, I have already talked about it. So, it is critical to have overall end-to-end picture of your future state, a business process, the to be scenario what I was talking about. So, you need to know what my organization I am designing, the future. Obviously, you want to design something better, something newer, you do not want to stick to your old process, because everybody wants, whenever you are investing so much of money, buying a new sophisticated world class product. So, SAP, ERP, these are all world class, best of the thing available across the world. So, when you are implementing that at a lot of cost, so you want to get some benefits. So, you want to have the best processes in the world followed by the best leading organizations in the world. So, that is why you have to design, be particular about this, so that you actually get a proper to be scenario. So, that is the design, because design is the main thing, because unless you design it right, whatever you build will not be right. So, you have to think very much. So, that is where here all the top level of the management is involved, all the functional owners, we say, the business process owners, the head of finance department, the CFO, the head of marketing, the CMO, the head of purchase, the head of manufacturing, head of operations, all of them, they finally have to understand the processes and sign off. They have to give their approval that yes, you can go ahead and design as per the build as per this design. So, business requirements should be detailed as possible, such that the business SMEs means subject matter experts and consultants, can understand your exact business needs. So, only experts in ERP product knowledge should finalize the fit gap analysis, as custom development is one of the major costs. Now, here I was discussing about new developments we need. It's called fit gap, in the sense after the design you can realize that some of the process of this company are very unique. They are not covered in the SAP product. So, what is the solution? The solution is to satisfy that you have to build a separate program, like I was talking. So, that is called, we call this as a gap. So, the gap has to be fulfilled by building a separate program, but then you have to very carefully analyze, is it really required? Can in the new scenario, can we do without that, or can we replace it by a standard process given in SAP? So, all that discussion should go on, because any development you want to do, that is a question of cost, because you have to have a developer, bring a developer who will write the codes for maybe 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, etc. And then you have to test, etc. Testing is again a very big costly component in any software development, takes a lot of time and you have to be careful. So, do a proper analysis, that do we need it? If it is absolutely required, yes, we have to do it, but try your best to avoid that. So, the custom development should be kept to the minimum to reduce cost and high system performance. The more extra programs you build, the software becomes very heavy. So, the response time gets impacted, and any IT system you must have felt many times when you are working, the response time is very critical for the user. Like if you are using a phone, or when you are doing a banking transaction and the system is slow, it hangs, you feel very irritated, you are not happy. So, you want something, things should move very fast. So, deployment and go live best practices, that is after when you actually going live in the system preparedness, completeness of all system integration testing, completion of all end user training. So, that is very important. In the training, the people who are going to use the system, they must be trained, because it is a complex software, it is not easy. So, you have to train, there are a lot of fields to fill up, and remember I told you earlier that any mistake, because it is an online system, real time, so any mistake you do gets immediately reflected across the organization, and it is hitting your finance books. So, once soon as I enter, I have received 10 material, instead of 10 I write 100 type, I just add by mistake one more 0. Maybe I was not focusing, I was watching something on my, talking to somebody on my phone, which we often do, and then doing the work. In one hand I am talking, in the other hand I am doing my typing here like this, and I do a mistake, instead of 10 I hit another 0, 100. That is a major mistake, and as soon as you hit enter, it is gone out of your hand. So, that sort of this end user training is very, very critical. Systems performance testing, again I am talking about the slow performance, etc. is very important. So, you have to do that, load test, etc., performance test, when everybody is working, too much of data is going, how the server is working, because server sometimes hangs. You have seen in e-commerce sites, or you have read in the newspapers, someday they give lot of discounts, and then plenty of people log in across the country, Flipkart, etc., and they crash. The servers cannot handle so much of traffic. So, that load test has to be done, which is true for any centralized systems, IT system. Then checklist to verify internal, external constituent readiness. You have to do that. Support help desk, that help desk is very important, because from day one the users will have problems, he is not going to use that, he has forgotten his password, he is not going to log in, he is not doing his transaction, it has become slow, all sorts of complaints will start coming in as it happens with a new user. So, the help desk should be in place, they should be ready to answer all the questions and solve their problems. All IT equipment fully tested, service level agreements in place, all stakeholders duly trained and made aware. So, training comes in several times. So, everybody must be trained and made aware. Service level agreement is with your the vendors, suppliers of your machines, printers, etc., etc. So, they should be in place, because the machine should work, your local PC, your printer, because all these gadgets are required for efficient functioning of the software. So, continuous engagement with stakeholder and project leaders. So, that is during the course of the project, do's and don'ts. Work closely with the implemented senior executive partner delivery leader to discuss avenues of improvements in project execution. As I was telling you, always interact with the senior level people from the client side, because they are the people who are giving you decision, and if they delay that decision, then your project will get delayed. So, that is another risk. Review risks associated with project delivery. So, budget overrun, solution quality gates with vendor executives, and propose mitigation plans. So, the various aspects of risk analysis we will talk in a few slides later. but you should always interact and see such that your project does not get delayed, because as I told you, they were long projects, complex projects, and if the project gets delayed, as you know, any project gets delayed means it's a cost overrun. Finally, it will cost more to the company and they won't like it when they say you ask for more money. Oversee and advise the periodic daily or weekly project leadership meeting. So ensure accurate project progress is reported. So communication is extremely important. So as a project manager, suppose I am assuming you are as a project manager implementing a project, one of your major tasks is to regularly communicate your project progress, the status, to all stakeholders, especially to the senior leadership of your client, your customer, for whom you are implementing this project. So they should be all kept updated and informed. Continuous engagement stakeholders, continue to manage disagreement or conflicts between business teams, internal leadership and systems integrator. I mean, this is pretty obvious. Evaluate and quality project progress report for preparing periodic steering committee. As I told you just now, you should always communicate so that everything is ready when steering committee meeting takes place, because major decisions are taken during steering committee meeting. And ensure that all sign-offs and deliverable approvals procedures are followed throughout, because it's very important to get sign off, because later on people can come back and say, no, I didn't tell you this. So there can be disputes. So if you have a sign off, a document which is signed off, you can also show, sir, you have signed this thing. So now you cannot say that you are not aware or whatever. So challenges, that was the implementation part, best practices. Now challenges, scope change, budget change, huge budget, long timeline I have discussed, process redesign of challenges, redesign challenges, unrealistic expectations and complex interfaces. So when there is an unrealistic expectation from the customer, they want something, want the sky, I want the sky, not possible or too expensive. Then process redesign, so could be difficult sometimes, long timeline. So all these challenges are faced by the project manager, because anything you agree to whatever the customer is asking, you are in a problem, because it will take time, it will cost, etc., etc. And usually these projects are run on a fixed fee basis. So they have told you, you deliver this project, finish it in 1 year, we will pay you so many crores. That is fixed. Now if you take more time, spend more money, then that's your loss as a consultant. So you have to keep that in mind. Support maintenance challenges, getting right people, knowledge here is very important. So the skill level, the knowledge of people, SAP experts, it's very important. You cannot have untrained people to do this. Managing multiple vendors, managing regular upgrades, softwares keep changing. Every 1 or 2 years, the software, the upgrades are always taking place. So that is also another thing which has to be handled. Technology obsolescence, technology also gets backdated. It's IT, it happens, software very often. So products keep changing. Large application portfolio, managing transition is moving over from the old system to the new system. That's the managing the transition, and then realizing benefits. That is, after sometimes the customer will ask you, I did all this, implemented, spent so much money, what is my business benefit? So that is what you have to tell him also, how to estimate the business benefit. Managing people, because that's one of the most difficult things, managing people, managing change, because it's a change management issue, because people now have to work, the customers people, they have to work in a new system, they have to acquire new knowledge, they have to know a little bit about the product, SAP. So all that can become difficult, especially if the people are the elderly people, sometimes many elderly people are not so computer savvy. So they will have some problem with the computer keyboards, etc., operating system. So many things happen, and people tend to give a resistance. So managing that is your challenge. Managing a large project team is always challenge. Managing employee retention and relocation, again a challenge. Retaining the employee, because sometimes the employee quit or relocate, etc. You need to relocate from one location to another, and then getting top management support, that is very important. So these are the few things which you have to keep in mind as a project manager. So reasons for ERP. Now project risk, there are several items which are can happen to give you risk. So I'll just briefly run through. So from the left, it's organization politics. Okay, we will not discuss that politics part. Computer literacy of employees. So employees should be computer literate. If not, that's a problem. Connectivity in remote locations. So any connectivity, it's all over network. So LAN, WAN, etc. Of course, so connectivity is a risk. Lack of top management support, it's a very big risk, because management has to support your project. Frequent change in scope. If the scope keeps changing, then it's a project will get delayed and it will be extra cost. So you should always avoid this scope change. aggressive time frame, the time frame is very aggressive, then it's a risk, because then people have to work hard, extra weekends, etc. That can become a problem. Inexperienced core team, if the team from the company side, they are not experienced enough, so they are not fully aware of the business processes of the organization, then you will not get proper design inputs. So that is a risk parameter. And multiple projects, if in that company there are several projects running simultaneously, so people will give less importance to this project, and that is a risk. 5-step project risk management approach, you have to find a potential risk element, they do an impact analysis, and the probability of occurrence, and prioritize, and finally you have to prioritize, you have to see which risk can happen, the probability is higher, and then you have to have a risk mitigation plan. So for every risk you must have a mitigation plan. If this happens, then how will I handle the situation? That is all it means as a mitigation plan. Some of the critical success factors are ownership and support from top management. Again, this has been said many times, repeating it. Project sponsor, the steering committee. Commitment to the product. Of course, you have to commitment to the product you are investing in, SAP example. Commitment to change, that is very important. So the whole organization is going to change, the people will going to change, the way they work is going to change, etc. The business process will get changed, because it's a business process re-engineering. So you must agree there's a commitment to change. If you resist change, the project will not succeed. So again, the example, we go back to the bank, when they resisted computerization of banks, so they were resisting that change, but finally it was overcome. Otherwise, the banking would have been remained something with a very old fashioned, that manual, you have to go, everybody stand in a queue, go to the teller, give a check, and then stand in a queue, and then they will count cash and give you, and that is only during banking hours. So any working day between 10 to 2 you have to go, etc., etc. Saturday, Sunday they are closed. But now it's 24/7, anytime you go to an ATM you can withdraw cash, and all that has been possible because there was a big change. Quick decision making and avoid lengthy discussions on trivial issues. So you should take quick decision making, because you are all bound by a time margin, tight time margin. Avoid frequent change to requirements, so scope change, as I told earlier, the risk. So there should not, because the customers tend to, can you give me this, can you do this for me? So whenever they know a consultant is come and working, so can you build this small program for me? So avoid all that, because many people will come and request, can you do me a small thing, etc., favor, etc. But you have to avoid all that, otherwise you will not be able to control your project in time, deliver it in time. Strict adherence to project plan. So that was the last thing. All this, if you cannot control all the scope changes, you can never adhere to your project plan. So some ERP recent trends, ERP vendors are moving into enterprise application areas. We will discuss it later. CRM, SRM, PLM, SCM will cover that. SME clients are everybody's focus. Vendors are going vertical. This is general knowledge about the ERP, the environment. Newer types of ERP projects are emerging, mitigation, migration, consolidation, harmonization, etc. So when two businesses join, one is having one ERP, the other ERP, that's a different type of project management problem altogether. But these things happen very frequently, migrations, takeovers, mergers, etc. And these are the books, same books are Enterprise Resource Planning, Rajeshwari and by O'Leary. All these are covered in the textbook, you can go through that. Thank you very much.